Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Hawk Blogger. And here we are, episode 217 of Hawk Blogger Mornings as we barrel into game day, folks. It is game day. The Seahawks take on the Buffalo Bills in a game that I kind of oddly am really looking forward to. I should be smarter than this. I should have learned my lesson that when the Seahawks have faced really good competition this year, it hasn't gone well. I should be smart enough to realize, well, Ernest Jones just got here. Maybe he won't play a lot of the game. Maybe they'll decide that players that have already been here should take his place. Or maybe if he does play, he'll make mistakes or he won't know things. Maybe Tyrell Dodson won't be used to playing will linebacker and he'll make mistakes. Maybe Reek Woolen isn't all the way back. Maybe Trey Brown isn't all the way back. Maybe DK Metcalf won't play. All these things. Maybe Geno Smith won't be able to throw the ball in this weather. Maybe. All those things could be possible. Maybe Josh Allen will be the MVP player that I think we all know he is. I can't help myself. I'm looking forward to this football game. I think the Seahawks have a puncher's chance in this game, and I kind of like getting into these games where generally nobody's expecting the Seahawks to win, even most Seahawks fans. And from a matchup perspective, we'll go through it one more time. There's absolutely credible paths to victory for the Seahawks in this game. And so I'm looking forward to that. So we'll talk about that in the show a little bit. Talk about some of the factors at play outside of the control of the team. We'll talk about that. Talk about practice squad call-ups. And I kind of want to go through and figure out who might be active and inactive this week. So I'm a little curious this week. There's some odd choices to be made. And we'll also I think I've got a voicemail, so we get to hear the jingle again. So look forward to that. I see people already asking about DK Metcalf. Let's start there. Before we do, can I ask everybody, take 1 second, click the like button, takes a second, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're pushing up to get to 13,000 subscribers. Want to get as many likes so as many people can find this as possible. I really appreciate when you just take a moment, click that like button. It helps all of us build this and grow this community. So DK Metcalf, here's kind of the state of things. He has been listed as doubtful. That's where he was on Friday. That's the official designation. The latest is that Jeremy Fowler last night of ESPN reported that DK Metcalf is going to test his knee during warmups, but that he is still doubtful. I think that's a totally reasonable place, and why everyone's saying there's no way he's going to play, that's just not true. I think it is most likely that he will not play. That is the case. But he might. And I think I'd put the chances, without knowing how he's feeling or anything like that, just based on the fact that the Seahawks have been conservative with injuries so far this year. They could have ruled him out. They didn't. They have left the door open all week. There's been some, positive signs from players or coaches about his availability. The fact that it was reported in the media as such earlier this week that he might play, I'd guess that there's like a 25-30% chance that he gets out there today. And, I think that that's actually the official percentages with a doubtful designation. Realistically, like almost nobody with a doubtful designation ever plays. I think it's closer to like 5% if someone's designated as doubtful that they play. I think this is closer to a doubtful/questionable situation. And the reason he's doubtful is because he hasn't practiced all week and they can't, they don't want to mislead. But I do think there's a chance he plays. I can't say for sure what I really want. I mean, I always want him to play. I want him to be available. I also want him to be available for the rest of the year. So I want them to be smart as a Seahawks fan for this game. But I think there's a real chance that he plays. So that's kind of the latest on DK Metcalf. I don't think you'll see anything else but between now and game time. The other thing that's a little bit of a sign, Jeff Simmons and I were texting about this yesterday, and he brought it up, and I thought it was a fair point. The Seahawks, as far as their elevations yesterday, they could have brought up a wide receiver. And I thought, they ended up elevating Josh Jobe and Faion Hicks, again, both cornerbacks. And we'll talk about that next, but by doing so, they didn't bring up like Cody White would be a wide receiver that they could have brought up from the practice squad if they were sure that DK Metcalf was going to be out. It's a little interesting that they picked two cornerbacks as their elevations because Reek Woolen was not on the injury report, is going to play. Trey Brown practiced fully on Friday, and Coach McDonald said optimistic, trending towards playing. So you have both of those guys. Now, Nehemiah Pritchett did not practice, and I think he may be one of the inactives this week, so that might be part of it. But that explains Jobe being elevated. I'm not sure it really explains Hicks. Maybe they're a little, not sure that Brown or Woolen will make it all the way through, and that's why they brought up the extra corner. That's probably the most likely scenario. But the fact that they didn't elevate a receiver could be a sign that they think that there's a better than expected chance that DK Metcalf plays. It could also just be a sign that they feel very comfortable with the trio of Jake Bobo, Laviska Shenault, and Derek Young. And I think that's probably the most likely scenario. If you want to go by numbers, and you guys know I'm always likely to go by numbers. If you look at the Seahawks target distribution this year, what would you guess? What would you guess the fourth most targeted receiver? Who is the fourth most targeted receiver, and how many targets do they have so far this year? DK Metcalf's number 1 with 61 targets. Jackson Smith-Njigba is number 2 with 55 targets. Tyler Lockett is 3rd with 46 targets. That's to chalk. That's pretty much as expected, right? Who is the 4th most targeted receiver? Not player, because there's other tight ends and running backs, but who's the 4th most targeted receiver? Of course, it's Jake Bobo. I don't think that's a huge shock either. But you go from 46 targets for the 3rd receiver in Tyler Lockett to 11 targets for Jake Bobo. 11 targets in 7 games. So barely over 1 target per game. And if you go to the 5th most targeted receiver, it is Laviska Shenault at 4 targets in 7 games. So I just think they're fine if they've got Bobo, Shenault, and Derek Young available to them. They just don't get down to the depths of their receivers that much. And I think if I went through snap counts, I think it would show that as well. So I just don't think they need to raise a receiver on their roster. And I think that's most likely the scenario, but worth bringing up. We've already got some chat activity, so let me get to that. We've got a new member, Michael Harder. Welcome to the crew. So great to have you, Michael, and thanks for joining us. Detail-oriented, Bobby, it has been a while. Good to see you, man. Hope you're feeling better. It says, Seahawks Sunday, would love to see us squeak out a win. Thanks for all the info, Brian. You're very much appreciated. Go Hawks. Man, you are very much appreciated, Detail. You are an OG here and one of the people that have really set the tone for this community. So really always appreciate you and happy to see you in chat. And then Alan Bond. Alan Bond, one of our most generous community members, has gifted 5 Hawk Blogger memberships. Love to see that. Thank you so much, Alan, for your generosity. And if you're one of the people that gets one of these free gifted memberships, pay it forward. Consider paying it forward. People, that's part of our community here. If you get something, try to give something. And on that front, I want to give everybody an update. I talked about this yesterday. This was a big deal. This is something I'm excited about. we've been doing this promotion with JK Boots, who is from Spokane. It's literally a mom and pop. It's a family owned business that grew up into like one of the best boot making companies in the world. And everything is handmade. Everything is like built to last a lifetime. I mean, everything is like 6 to 8 weeks to be built. They have videos on their YouTube channel that has like hundreds of thousands of followers. It's crazy. I'm not a boot guy. Like as far as boot culture goes, I do own boots, but I don't know all these reasons to follow their blog. But in any event, we've been doing this promo where if you use code HawkBlogger, you get 10% off. So it's a win for you. Then you also, every time you purchase using that code, you get entered to win a custom themed, Seahawks themed pair of boots that will be designed just for your feet or someone you love's feet that you want to give a gift to. So that's another win. But the cool thing is yesterday, I let you guys know that we were one purchase away from being able to give away, to donate a pair of boots to a wildland firefighter and the Wildland Firefighters Foundation. They have literally firefighter boots, and these are used by a lot of the folks that fight the fires in our Northwest forests, and we blew through it. We blew through it yesterday. So I'm so excited. We are going to get to donate a pair of boots to the Wildland Firefighters Organization. I'm working with JK Boots on whether when we get to 20 or 30 or whatever our next milestone is, whether we can give some more boots away. I'm optimistic that we will, because this is our community. Like you get something, you give something. And I'm going to try to figure that out with as many of my partners as possible. You guys get the bonus of 10% off and entry into this draw, and not really a drawing. It's entry to be able to win one of these pair of Seahawks themed boots. And we get to give to Wildland Firefighters Foundation to make the Northwest safer and better. So really, really appreciate it. Even if you are not someone who needs this level of boot, consider, if you know anyone that's in construction, a firefighter, anyone that's working on their feet all day, works outside a lot, if they're a hiker or whatever, these are boots that you can let them know about. Let them know about code HawkBlogger. They get 10% off as well. All right, we got a super chat from Nell God. Says, hey, Brian, it's your Twitter buddy, Nelson. The Geno jersey looks so good on you. Well, thank you. Got a good feeling today, getting some Pogs pizza and watching the game. Yeah, Pagliacci, amazing. I'm working with them on some cool stuff as well. This blue sweatshirt's actually a Pagliacci sweatshirt. So got them represented today. Looking forward to it. And man, I don't know what I'm going to do weather-wise. So let's talk about weather in this game, because it's just factor. If you're in the Northwest, because you've been hearing it at night. The wind's been howling, the rain's been pounding. This could be a heavily weather impacted game. As of right now, let's take a look. Let's look at NOAA. Everyone's got their favorite place to look for weather in the Northwest. I generally go with NOAA. And what they've got right now for Seattle, let me make sure I got the right. Yes. So they say thunderstorms are possible after 2 p.m. I would be very annoyed if there's a big lightning delay in this game. But just so you know, thunderstorms are possible. That usually means high winds. It's saying southwest winds 15 to 17 miles an hour with gusts as high as 24 miles an hour. That's not nothing. That is a huge impact on the passing game. Maybe more than rain, to be honest, is the wind. New rainfall amounts between 1/10 and 1/4 of an inch. Expect higher in thunderstorms. So it could really start coming down this afternoon. I'm kind of curious if I can get the hourly. Here's the hourly. If I look at precipitation predictions today, it's looking like a decent chance it's going to be raining during this game. So, I published my findings of who's affected more in rainy weather games between Geno Smith and Josh Allen. And the fact of the matter is it's been Josh Allen so far. Even though he went to Wyoming, even though he plays in Buffalo, he has been more impacted by the weather than Geno Smith. And let me show you the numbers in case you haven't read this over on hawkblogger.com. I'll share my screen and let's take a look. All right. I will make this bigger for all of you so you can actually see what I am seeing. So remarkably, like, it's hard to find these splits, by the way, but one of the cool things about ftnfantasy.com, where I am a subscriber, you can get 15% off using promo code HBAM, is that they have weather splits. You can get player splits based off of rain, off of clear weather, off of wind. I did not do wind splits. I just don't, I don't have all the time in the world, but they do. I basically did the splits between rain and clear weather for these players. And that does not include wind games as a separate thing. It does not include dome games, like indoor games in that regard. So these are literally just the opposite end of the spectrum about whether they played in the rain or they played in the clear weather and how did they do. Now, the reality is every quarterback is negatively impacted by the rain. There's nobody that plays better in the rain, as far as I know. I haven't done all the research, but all the research I've read is that it certainly has a negative effect. This is looking at Josh Allen over the last 3 years, 2021 through 2023. I did not do this year. I don't know if they've played in any rain games for that matter. But generally looking here, the thing that happens is Josh Allen attempts fewer passes per game. He completes fewer passes per game, and his completion rate drops. So he becomes a less frequent passer and a less efficient passer. So actually, you can't see what I'm highlighting here. So let me do whatever. It doesn't matter. So that's one piece. But the interesting piece to me is that the yards per game really changes. You go from 270 yards per game in clear games to 226 in rainy games. His passing touchdowns drop significantly. You may not be able to read all this, but in case you're curious, it says 88 touchdowns in clear weather, 12 in rain. This negative 30% drop is based off of a per game calculation. So game by game, he is 30% down in passing touchdowns when it is rainy. And then interestingly, his interception rate in this situation is also game by game is down, but his actual interception rate when you do it by pass attempt as opposed to by game is up slightly. It's up 11%. So one of the things that I could find though is that Allen had one stellar rain game in 2021. If you limit it to the last 2 years, so 2022 to 2023, then the differences get even more pronounced. His touchdown rate drops 42% from 6% in clear weather to 3.5% in rainy weather. His interception rate climbs not a lot from 2.8% to 3%. His yards per attempt drops 20%, and his completion rate drops 10%. So, under a 60% completion rate in rainy games the last 2 years. Now you compare that to Geno Smith, and the interesting thing is Geno is also negatively affected by the rain. But if you look here, what kind of happens is Geno starts as a more accurate passer to begin with. And so when he's affected by the rain, he still is a more accurate passer than Allen is. In fact, I think Geno Smith, what was the thing I found here? Geno Smith, this was on the interception rate. So Geno Smith definitely throws more interceptions when he is playing in the rain, 30.6% jump in interception rate. So a big jump for Geno in rain. But the interesting thing is he already starts from a lower interception rate than Josh Allen. His interception rate in the rain is still significantly lower than Josh Allen's interception rate in clear weather. So even though rain affects Geno negatively, Josh Allen's interception rate just climbs. He has 0 interceptions this year. He's thrown still fourth highest turnover worthy play rate. So you put all those things together, and I think there's a decent chance Josh Allen's interceptionless streak might come to an end today. And then, Geno's not that affected in terms of touchdowns thrown, yards per attempt. His yards per game do dip. So, generally speaking, both of these quarterbacks are affected by the rain. Josh Allen's affected a little bit more, and that's just something to keep in mind as we get into this game. Some more chat activity as I was talking, so let me get to that. We've got Tony Bag of Donuts, which is one of the best profile names out there, has gifted 5 Hawk Blogger memberships. Really appreciate you, Tony. He has been incredibly generous as well. Consider, paying these forward. If you get one, give one. Would love to see that. Let's take a moment before we get into my kind of primary topic today, which is really to talk about identity. Let's do some voicemails. I know everybody is so thrilled every time I play this jingle. I know I am. So we've got a voicemail today, but we got to kick it off with the jingle. Here we go.
Time to rise and shine, it's clear. HB Mornings voicemails here. Play and laugh, let go of fear. Start your day with cheer, my dear.
I spent an incredible amount of money on that jingle, so I hope you all appreciate it. Voicemail today comes from Hawks fan Matt Man, and here is what he had to say.
Good morning, Brian and the Hawk Blogger family. This is Hawks fan Matt Man, but you can just call me Matt. My question has to do with defensive pressure rate percentage. I'm wondering exactly how this stat is measured or calculated, because I feel like I've heard a lot about it this year, probably because the Seahawks are among the league leaders in this category, but I'm wondering if this is something that's like a bit of a hollow metric, or maybe I'm just not considering it correctly, but I don't always feel like I'm seeing, like definitive evidence of its effectiveness during the games. So I'm just wondering exactly how pressure rate is defined and just how important it really is. So that's it. Thanks again, and go Hawks.
Great voicemail there from Hawks fan Matt Man, one of our other most frequent visitors to the show. Always appreciate you, Matt. And here's the thing I'll say about pressure rate. This is a really important question for today, especially because pressure is a big deal. So first of all, let's talk about, you asked about how it's calculated. And generally, it's pretty simple. It's how many pressures a team creates per drop back. And so some people get confused because it's, is it per pass attempt? No, because sacks count as dropbacks. And so sacks are a pressure. And so even though there's not a pass attempt, that counts as a dropback. So you want to look at dropbacks and not at pass attempts. They can also be part of a scramble. So scrambles are not pass attempts, but they are pass plays that result in a scramble, and that might be the result of a pressure. So that is how pressure rate is calculated. Now, I want to show you exactly why pressure rate, and this is, and to kind of to Matt's point, can be misleading. So we're going to look at 3 different places, okay? At least I'll do 2. If I go to Pro Football Reference, which is a great site and very useful, they have the Seahawks pressure rate as number 1 in the NFL at 30.7%, okay? If I go to the NFL and I go to stats there and I look at defense and I look at pressure rate, they have QB pressure rate. They have the Seahawks at 4th in pressure rate, but the pressure rate they list is higher, 40.4%. So let's just stop there. That's enough. How can there be 2 such wildly different pressure rates on different sites? And if I went to another site, it would still be different. The reason is pressures are not as definable as sacks or quarterback hits. And so different sites, different charting companies calculate a pressure or designate something as a pressure differently. It might be how close they get to the quarterback. It might be whether the quarterback moves. It could be any number of things that differs from, it is more subjective about what is a pressure. So for a long time, I used to focus on quarterback hits and sacks and ignore pressures because I thought the subjective nature of pressures made them less interesting. There's actually been statistical research done, and pressure rate is more predictive of the effectiveness of a pass rusher, an individual pass rusher, than sacks or quarterback hits. In fact, sacks and quarterback hits are a little bit more variable and a little bit less predictive in general. So it's the thing where you could actually be creating pressure on a regular basis and not get a sack and still be an effective player. So that's why I've started to pay attention to pressure more. I do care about sack rate. I do track that. I look at quarterback hit rate, all those kind of things. What I think matters here is that by any measure, wherever you look, the Seahawks are one of the best pass rushing teams in the NFL. And why I think it sometimes doesn't feel like they're getting home as much is because, there's been a lot of games where you get a Brock Purdy scrambling out of what should have been sacks multiple times. You get, some situations where you're collapsing pockets, but quarterbacks are still able to get the ball away and make hay. And also it's the myopia of just watching one team generally. And so the fact of the matter is when you've seen this Seahawks offensive line is the other factor at play here that skews things. I mean, the Lions, the 49ers, the Giants got so much pressure because they were going against a pretty inferior offensive line for Seattle that it also makes the Seahawks pressure look less impressive. But I do believe the Seahawks pressure is legitimate. This is a huge storyline in the game today. Their ability to create pressure is big. I'll remind everybody, and I'll even do this myself, Josh Allen, when under pressure this year, I'll go with looking at who's got the minimum dropbacks. Josh Allen has a grade of passing grade of where does he go? 48.5 when he is under pressure. That is 16th in the NFL. That is like Deshaun Watson, Jacoby Brissett, Justin Fields. That is his level. Kirk Cousins, we talked about him struggling under pressure last week. He has a higher passing grade under pressure than Josh Allen. When Josh Allen's not under pressure, his passing grade's 81.5. So pressure's a really big deal, and I think the Seahawks are in a good place to do it. Ernest Jones, who is going to play today, he is going to add to pressures. I don't know if he's going to be used on blitzes. It might be something that they feel a little less comfortable sending him on in his first game with Seattle, but he is an excellent blitzer. He's one of the best blitzing linebackers in football. And this is the first time that crew's all going to be together. So I do think pressure is a huge key to this game, and I'm looking forward to that. Let's talk about some other players and aspects of who's in this game. Jarek Reed yesterday was activated from PUP and placed on the 53-man roster. He took the spot of Ty Okada, who was moved back to the practice squad this week. Jarek Reed was a guy, he was a rookie last year, who, really was making a standout as a special teamer. He was leading the NFL in special teams tackles before he got hurt. He's now back. I think his primary role certainly is going to be on special teams. I expect him to be active today. He looks so rocked up. He's a little dude. He's the guy that John Schneider talked about as like an angry little elf when he was doing scouting. I'm really looking forward to Jarek getting back out there. I spoke to Jarek Reed on this show during the offseason while he was still rehabbing. He had a little setback and was getting back to running. I've watched that guy at the VMAC every day. He is just grinding. Like I said, he is rocked up. He has really put on some muscle. I'm really looking forward to seeing him out there. Maybe he gets some snaps in the safety situation, probably not, but I'm really excited about that guy, and great to have him back. If nothing else, special teams wise, I think he's a big addition. I'm kind of curious, as a matter of fact, let's go back to 2023 and let's look at special teams scores on PFF. It's something we rarely do, okay? Special teams, let's look at this from last year. Where was Jarek Reed? Interestingly, Ty Okada was the highest graded Seahawks for special teams last year. Julian Love was up there. Where's Jarek Reed? He had a 76.4 grade on special teams. The other guy that the Seahawks added, I think his name is Josh Ross. Yes, Josh Ross. So let's look at Josh Ross. Josh Ross had a 75 grade on special teams last year. I think there's a chance Josh Ross, say that 5 times fast, will be active today. I think special teams could get a boost. I think the Seahawks coverage units could always use a boost. And the Bills have, for what it's worth, been one of the worst coverage teams in the NFL this year. They're 25th in net yards per punt. They're 30th in kickoff returns against. It's going to be a windy day. What's that going to look like? The Bills have also not kicked a 50-plus yard field goal on the year. With wind, are they going to be a situation where they're able to kick a key field goal in a key situation? That's another thing to watch for in this game. It can be really tough in Lumen Field with the way the wind swirls in there, especially going towards the Hawk's Nest. If they are kicking towards the Hawk's Nest, anyone kicking towards the Hawk's Nest, it is generally harder to make those. That's where I've seen a lot of field goals fall short, not as much going the other direction. We have got Rick R. back to his generous ways, gifting another 5 Hawk Blogger memberships. Thank you so much for your generosity, Rick. I hope you have a wonderful day and appreciate you. Kendrick asks, is Brian going to the game or press box? You could tell by the way I'm dressed, I'm going to the game. I'm going to be heading out here in a little bit to pregame with my buddies, watch the early slate. I'm going to make sure I can see the Arizona-Miami game at 10 a.m. I think that game is fascinating and really curious about whether Miami takes a step forward with Tua being back in the lineup. And that would be a big loss. If they could get Arizona a loss there, that would be helpful. And so I'm looking forward to watching that game. And then I'll be screaming in the stands. And look, folks, I'm still working on this story. I'm taking my time with it because I want to do it right and well. But I expect there to be a lot of Bills fans in the stadium today. And I had heard from a ticket site that before the 49ers game, they expected 67% of the seats to be 49ers fans. That wasn't true. I think that might have been the percentage of purchasers of seats were 49ers fans. That I buy, but not in the stadium. I heard somewhere that they're expecting 57% to be Bills fans. Again, I think there's going to be a lot of Bills fans. They haven't been to Seattle since 2016. It's a very rare thing for them to come out here. Josh Allen, by the way, never played a game. You could probably guess that most of these Bills players and coaches have never played a game in Seattle. It was that long ago that they came here. Tyrod Taylor was the starting quarterback back then. And I think that Bills fans are going to be out here to make a trip. They don't get a chance to come out here very often. A lot of people want to come visit Seattle. So I'm okay with that, honestly. Like, of all the fan bases, I'm like Bills are maybe my second favorite team. So, I won't be it's not as obnoxious. I think Bills fans are lovable and They've done a lot of pretty amazingly generous things that I respect in donating to. I think they started this tradition of donating to the charity of players that helped beat teams that they wanted beaten. So, the Bills are kind of I have a soft spot in my heart for them, but expect that there's going to be a lot of Bills fans. I'm going to be out there screaming my head off. The guy that I sit next to, not my buddy that I share tickets with, but the guy I'm sitting next to this year is so frustrating to sit next to. He hates Geno Smith. He just screams at him all the time. He's like one of those fans that's just negative about everything all the time. And I find myself wanting to turn and scream in his face when something goes good with the Seahawks. Like, how you like us now? It feels like he's an opposing fan. It's very frustrating. I get being frustrated with your team. I've been in situations where I joked around about my team and maybe did a Bronx cheer about my team, but constantly screaming at how much you hate your own players. People can fan however they want to fan, but I'm telling you, it's not fun sitting next to. I'll tell you that much. But I will be there. I will be cheering, and we will get that. We will get that taken care of. So, back to the game for a few minutes here. Let's take a look again at who will be probably active for this game. So if we look back to last week, who were the active guys or the inactives for the Seahawks? I'm going to scroll all the way back because I don't remember exactly who was on that list. But there's something interesting here in that George Fant, even though he practiced this week, was not activated. So you still have Jalen Sundell, the rookie, who's a backup center, is your backup right tackle. If Michael Jarrell goes down, you thought maybe they'd have Fant there in case maybe Jarrell struggled or something else. But no, they have not done that. And so they're a little bit thin. I mean, they didn't even, McClendon Curtis is another guy they could have brought up, but they didn't. If we look here at inactives, here we go. It took me a while to scroll. Last week's inactives were Trey Brown and Reek Woolen. They look like they're both going to be active. Other people that were active. Stone Forsythe on IR. We know he's not even going to be listed as inactive because he's on IR. So that's 3 spots on inactives that were players that won't probably be there this week. Cam Young will be inactive. We already know he's out. Miles Adams, I think he'll be inactive again. Sataoa Lamea, inactive last week, will likely be inactive again. Travis Gibson, outside linebacker, was inactive. I think he'll be inactive again. So that's 4 players that you've got that are probably inactive this week. Then you've got Fionn Hicks and Josh Jobe were active last week. So if we look at this, I'm kind of fascinated here. Who does that leave to potentially be inactive? And I'm going to look at the depth chart. Curious what you guys think. I think that here we go. Could be DK Metcalf. That is a possibility. It's one we hope it's not, but it's definitely a possibility. Could be Olu Oluwatimi. He could be another active. Probably not, but maybe. Who else might be inactive? I mean, assuming that Jarek Reed's going to be active. Oh, Nehemiah Pritchett will be inactive. I'm guessing Nehemiah Pritchett, the cornerback, will be inactive because he didn't practice on Friday and they activated 2 defensive backs this week. Who else? Josh Ross will probably be inactive, I'm guessing. So his first week here, he is a special teams guy, but maybe they'll keep him inactive. So, I mean, what does that give me? That's Cam Young, Miles Adams, that's 2. Josh Ross is 3. Satoa's 4. Nehemiah Pritchett's 5. question is Kayvon Wallace going to be inactive? Is there a chance Kayvon Wallace is inactive? I wonder. That would be an interesting one. Kenny McIntosh? Maybe? I don't think so. But there's got to be a couple other guys that would be inactive. It's going to be maybe Mike Morris. Do they go Mike Morris? I don't know. Drake Thomas, that could be one who's inactive. I wouldn't be shocked about that. Now, this is things that you guys probably don't care about, but I find this what's going on with the roster really interesting because the Seahawks are kind of making things over as the season progresses. The additions of Jarek Reed, the additions of Roy Robertson Harris, the addition of Josh Ross and Ernest Jones, these all have pretty big impacts. And now Josh Jobe standing out last week in his game, I think also shakes things up relative to Nehemiah Pritchett. So they're kind of feeling things out as we go, and I'm curious what will happen today relative to that. Now, the Bills, one of the things that's interesting there is that they brought up a nose tackle. I think his name's Eli Anku, and a receiver. And the receiver's kind of a speedster. I think he has like a 66-yard touchdown or something like that when he's played last. They did not bring up a linebacker. Balin Spector is going to be their starter at middle linebacker in place of Terrell Bernard. This is a big deal. He's a huge part of that team, and they're a different defense when he's not out there. Dwayne Carter, who's their defensive tackle who rotates with Ed Oliver, and I'm spacing on the name of the other guy. I think Dewan Smoot, maybe. But in any event, Carter's on the IR, so the first time they're going to be missing him. And so Anku will get some snaps there. He's a veteran. I thought that he was a nose tackle that I thought Seahawks might even kick the tires on when they were getting down to cut down time at the end of training camp. He's been on practice squad. They're elevating him. But I think that the Bills' run defense up the middle has been weak with Bernard and Carter available. I think there's an opportunity here for the Seahawks to really make a difference in the middle of that line. I expect Connor Williams maybe to have his best game. He had his best game last week against the Falcons. I saw him gesturing to the sideline in a way that I haven't seen him before. He was like, let's keep going. Let's feed the ball to Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet. Let's run the ball. I think they're starting to feel themselves a little bit on the offensive line. I think this is not a great Bills run defense, and I think the Seahawks, it would be one of their most credible paths to victory in this game is if they can get the run game going in a way that they haven't yet this year. They got the run game going in the second half against the Broncos. They had some great plays in the run game against the Lions. They've had some moments. They even had some against the Falcons. But a complete game, they haven't really had. And if they're able to really get the run game going in this one, I think the Seahawks' chances of winning go a little bit north of 50%. At least it gets it to a 50-50 split. If they're able to get the run game going, that's a big deal. Anthony Bradford, Christian Haynes both had their best games last week, I think, overall. Anthony Bradford especially. And if you look over the course of the season, I'm curious, would you have any guesses about who is the better pass blocker and who is the better pass rusher? Who is the better pass blocker? Who is the better run blocker between Christian Haynes and Anthony Bradford, at least according to PFF, which I know is flawed, but it's something. Interestingly, they're essentially equivalent in the run blocking. 55 grade for Bradford, 54 grade for Haynes. Christian Haynes has a 63 grade in pass protection, and Anthony Bradford's 51 in pass protection. If I go and look at their per game performances, Christian Haynes has had 2 back-to-back 80-plus graded pass blocking games. All right. Against San Francisco and against Atlanta, he only had 8 snaps and then 15, but those are very good pass blocking grades. His run blocking grades, not so good, 41 and 45, his 2 lowest of the season. if I go and I look at Anthony Bradford, he also had a great pass blocking grade. I think this went undiscussed by Seahawks fans. Anthony Bradford had an 87 pass blocking grade last week in 45 snaps. That's pretty significant. His highest by far on the year. He had a 58.4 run blocking grade. He's been much more consistent in the run blocking over the course of the year, even though it hasn't been particularly good. It's been better. I think Anthony Bradford gets the dominant share of the snaps this week. I think Anthony Bradford paired with Mike Jarrell is going to be something that's interesting to watch. And I think that we want to look at how the Bills perform in this game against the run. I think they have to test that. They have to learn about it. Let's do a quick look over at FTN. They've got some cool stuff with DVOA. And again, you can get the same access I've got if you use promo code HBAM. It gets you 15% off, less than $8 a month at FTN Fantasy to get access to all this DVOA data. If I go and I look at adjusted line yards, if I look at, where is it? Adjusted line yards. I can look to see how the Bills defense has done against certain types of runs. I think I might even be able to see how they do against certain directional runs. Let me first do this. So how have they done against powers? They've actually been the seventh best run defense against powers by DVOA. Where they struggle is in open field. They are the 30th ranked defense in open field rushing. So basically, once someone gets through the line, the Bills really struggle on defense. And what I want to try to find, I found this on my phone, but I don't have it on my laptop yet. I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to get... I'm going to try to see if I can find the directional piece. Where's the DVOA? Okay, premium splits for DVOA. So this is another benefit of being an FTN member. I get all these additional split datas. You can as well. I'm going to have to load this into a Google Sheet real quick, if you don't mind. And what we can see here, I think I will be able to see how they do directionally. So first thing I got to do is create a new sheet and upload. All right, let's upload what I'm trying to upload here. So I think we're going to find the Bills are challenged up the middle. That's at least what I saw when I was watching their tape. Especially against the Titans, they really struggled defending the middle of the field. So if let's see, can I see directional, left, middle, right? Now, is this team defense versus receiver and versus running back? Yes, I think this is DVOA running back. I think this might be receiver. So let me look at this. I'm scrolling around, so you guys are going to have to listen to me while I try to find what I'm looking for. Team by zone, team down distance. So many things to look at. Defense, DVOA, adjusted line yards, weekly sheet. Let's see if I've got it here. Does not look like I'm getting exactly what I'm after, unfortunately, which is a shame. It's a shame. But I can look at least from a receiving standpoint, how they do directional rushing. There we go. Found it. Ha! I knew I could find it. All right. So let's filter this down, and we're just going to look at defense, and we're going to look at Buffalo. And where are they? Yes, I found it. Okay, they are ranked 7th in runs to the left, which is so that it's always confusing if this is the defense's left or the offense's left. I think it's going to be the offense's left. They rank third in left tackle. So everything going off the left side, they're a good run defense. All right. Middle, off the guard. Where do they rank? 25th. That's what I saw, and the numbers back it up. That's what I saw on film. They're weak up the middle, and they just lost one of their defensive tackles. Connor Williams, big game. This is a big game for Connor Williams, and I think he can be a factor in this one. So I'll leave you with that as a thought as I now get back out of all the spreadsheet beauty that I was in. And let's do this, folks. Tell me in chat, tell me in comments, what is your prediction for this game? What do you think the score is going to be? Who do you think is going to stand out? Who's the player of the game today? For me, I predicted a Bills win back on Wednesday. I'm not someone who's likes to change things and be on all sides of things. I'm really looking forward to this game. The thing that I want to see the most, I want to see the Seahawks defensive front show up. I want to see the defensive front be a factor because Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins, their offensive linemen for the Bills, are two of the better tackles in the game. And they have, I think I tweeted this out today. I know I did. Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins have allowed two of the four lowest pressure rates among tackles in 2024 per next gen snaps, minimum 200 pass blocking snaps. So these are been very good tackles in terms of pass protection. I think that we're finally at the point that no training wheels for Boye Mafe and Derek Hall. They're good enough, and Draymond Jones, they're good enough to create pressure even against good tackles. And I want to see Derek Hall drive someone back into Josh Allen's lap. I want to see Byron Murphy create chaos in the middle of that offensive line for the Bills. And I think it's possible. That's like a very reasonable thing to see. I'd also say, so they have had some problems at center. Let's see if Leonard Williams, like talked about how Roy Robertson Harris is going to play some different positions today. Mike McDonald said they really limited him last week, but he can play all along the line, that allows them to play Leonard Williams in different spots. I think that we're going to see Leonard Williams moved around today. I think you're going to see, I don't know, man. I think there's a chance the Seahawks defense actually shows up today and plays a game that you're proud of. Even if they give up points, even if they give up 25 points, maybe they're going to be hero plays from Josh Allen where you're like, throw your hands in the air and like, I don't know how you stop that guy. There's been games like that. I just want to see the Seahawks defense look like they are ready to fight and ready to be a defense that the hometown crowd can get behind and cheer for. Want to see some sacks, want to see some turnovers, want to see just some tight coverage. That's the thing I want to see most today. Offensively, I think it's kind of a tough matchup with DK being out. I think that depending on how the offensive line plays, it's tough. I think Geno Smith in clear, dry weather, I actually would love to see him throw against this defense. I think that Greg Rousseau and AJ Epinesa are both really high-quality edge rushers. I think they're going to give Mike Jarrell a handful today. I think Ed Oliver is going to be a handful for the Seahawks guards. I think Laken Tomlinson will have a rough time. So I really think pass pressure from the Bills is going to be challenging. And so that's why I think if the Seahawks do not get their run game going, I think this is a real tough game to win. If they do, all bets are off. I think they can absolutely get it. Speaking of bets, let's take a look to see if there's been any change in the odds for this game. Last time I checked, it was still Bills +3 or -3. As of right now, it is still, I see no movement on the line. Bills -3 remains the line. So that's it. Seahawks are not favored in this game. They probably should not be favored in this game, but they've got a chance to win. Let's see what they can do. We will find out very soon. All right, everybody, take care. I'm Brian Nemacher. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at HawkBlogger. This has been another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. Take care, everybody.